Oh, hi. I'm Draco Self-Important, and you should listen to me. Sweet baby Jesus. Okay, so last couple of videos were addressing hater comments. Um, I took a nap while those videos were processing. Don't mind the opening of the can here. Took a nap while the videos were processing. In the interim, got a response back on a different comment left by the dude telling me not to pay attention to the other dude because he was being a hateful prick. Basically, my words, not his. He said hateful, didn't say prick. This gentleman, however, um, and here I go again, presuming he's got Mr. in his username, um, expressed hesitation with, like, trans people, like, you know, in general. And to which I asked, like, because in the comment, it's a long ass comment, and I really like if I sit here and read the whole thing out, we're gonna be here for the rest of our lives again. I'm not dedicating necessarily an hour to this, I don't think, because the thing. Okay, so um, told me I had balls for changing in the way that I had. I think he's assuming that I've had surgery that I have not had. So, hey, if you're watching this, go watch the last video. I go into a little bit more detail about all of that. Not doing that again. But I asked, like, because he made pretty clear that he, in general, like, the only reason that he was. The initial messages that he sent to me were very supportive, and the only reason that we continued the conversation is because I asked. Because I was like, so why are you a critic to begin with? Like, if you don't care that, like, about other people's bodies, what's the fucking problem? And the response that I got back was, I don't have a problem with trans men. I have a problem with trans women. And we got into, or he got into, the people transitioning to go into women's bathrooms, brought up rape in prison, and also brought up um, sports. So let's break those things down piece by piece because no, no, and no. Now, I say this as someone who also has transitioned, hi, but in the other direction. The moment that I realized I was a man, the idea of going into a women's room seemed like I was entering someone else's space and I did not belong there. So I would imagine that there are probably trans women who have that experience. But having been married to someone in the very beginning of her transition, like having been actually married to an actual real live trans woman, and, knowing several throughout my life, generally they're afraid to go to the bathroom because they're afraid that they're going to get yelled at minimally or that someone's going to call an actual man into the bathroom to come beat the shit out of them for daring to pee. Transition, even if your end goal is to have all of the surgeries and have everything be completely, like, stereotypically, let's say you're a trans woman, you're going to get top surgery, bottom surgery, maybe you get some facial reconstruction, whole 9 yards, right? So even if that's your goal, oh my God, that takes years. So in the interim years, while that transition's happening, you have to make the call of when do I start switching up the bathrooms? And that's different for everybody. And here's the thing, especially if we're talking about women's rooms, there are doors on those stalls, bro. Like, no one's watching you pee. I spent the vast majority of my life going into women's bathrooms. It was not until I was like 38 years old, 37, I don't remember. I'm bad at this, pretty sure 38, that I stopped using women's rooms. So it's like, I'm well aware, like, yeah, there are occasions I've been in a bar bathroom or two that didn't have doors, or like maybe something at a park, but 95% of the fucking bathroom stalls have doors, man. Like, no one's watching you pee. And Uh, saying I'm trans doesn't give you any more or less right to sexually assault someone in that bathroom regardless. And I don't know if you're aware of this, but most like public bathroom situations, you know, your average like Target, grocery store, whatever, those like they're like anyone can walk in there. There's not like someone standing at the door policing it. So like a man could, you know, look around, make sure no one's watching, and dip into the women's room. Like, if this is a thing that someone wants to do in order to sexually assault someone, they will do that. There are not people who are, like, actually transitioning for this. And, even if there is, like, some small minority of people that are transitioning for, you know, I don't know. I, here's the thing, too. Like sexual assault is about power. It's not ever about sex. Like that's like that it's that's just the tool that's used to bludgeon you. Like that's not what it's actually about. So the idea that someone who would have that kind it doesn't even make sense to me that someone would transition in order to like you know, you saying that someone can just say that they're trans and walk into a bathroom like but then what? You know, that doesn't give them any more rights to do anything else. And it's like, what are they going to do? Watch you wash your hands? Like, where's the harm here? The harm is to trans women. The harm is to women who, when they go on estrogen, lose all of that physical strength that they previously had because the thing that makes your muscles strong is testosterone. So when they go on testosterone blockers and go on estrogen and or progesterone, right, they become physically weaker. I watched my ex-wife as her muscles melted. Like she had pretty recently stopped working for the big box company, you know, the ones with the delivery and the whatnot. Um, and so, like, you know, she did a lot of like driving of equipment when she was working there, but most of what she did was fucking picking shit up and moving it around. In shape, six pack, like definition in the arms, muscles. I was physically bigger than her, and she still could have like picked me up and thrown me on her shoulders, and away we went. Like that's right until the estrogen. And then I watched, you know, she gained like no weight. So it's not like, oh, she went on the estrogen and then she got all chubby and that's why she got soft. No, she just literally like her muscles got squishy, like because they didn't have the testosterone to make them not. Like you have more red blood cells when you have higher testosterone levels. Like there's a whole host of things that make you stronger as a man that the second that you start taking testosterone blockers, boom, gone. Like it takes such it, and it's like a remarkably short amount of time too. Which, to be fair, going in the other direction, me noticing a strength increase when I started taking testosterone was nuts. Like it amazes me the things that I can do physically now. Like oh my god, I remember we were at the zoo. I was at the zoo with the baby, and I went to pick her up. Like, I grabbed her by the waist and picked her up this way so she could see up over, like, a bush or something to see. I think we were looking at a tiger. And when I went to pick her up, I damn near launched her into the air because I was not expecting her to be as heavy as she was. Or as light rather as she was. It was like I picked up an empty fucking milk carton and thought it was full. Like you know that feeling. Yeah, I was like, oh Jesus, like wow, you're way lighter. You know, obviously she'd been getting bigger, not smaller. The child is growing, like thankfully. Um, so like that happens in the other direction as well. So you know, if the thing is like, oh well, you can just say you're trans and then be able to go into a women's room. Well, like, bro, people who actually transition, there are years in there. Like, even if you get everything approved, boom, 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 you're looking at minimum of a year before a surgeon will even think about touching you. That you have to live as your preferred gender. You have to. Like, they won't approve you to get the surgery if you haven't lived as your chosen gender because until you live as your chosen gender, it's all just like hypothetical and theoretical, and they're not going to give you surgery based on that. Nuts. Um, rape in prison by trans women. First of all, I don't know that I've ever seen a single case of this. What I do know is that in Washington, they house trans women in isolation in men's facilities because my friend currently works as a CO in a men's prison, and there are trans women there. They're not housed with anyone. They're in the men's facility, but they're in isolation. I would assume that there are trans men in the women's facilities. I don't know anyone who works there specifically, but there aren't trans men in the men's facility that my friend works at, and it's a pretty substantial one. So like, I simply don't think that that's the thing that's happening. And yet again, we get back to the same situation. Like, you don't think that cis women sexually assault other women in prison? The culture of prison rape is not something that trans people invented or propagate. The PRIA exists for a reason. It's a prison rape. God damn it! What the hell is the acronym? Something. It's basically the Anti-Prison Rape Act that is not super effective in actually preventing prison rapes. And oh my god, this cat is such a dumbass. Yeah. So that, I mean, I don't think that that's an actual issue. I don't, because I've not ever seen anyone actually be able to like present cases, because you can present cases of cis woman on cis woman sexual violence all day. There are studies about it, like, because that's a thing that happens, because sexual violence in prison is unfortunately baked into the culture of American prison, because once you go into the carceral system, you get to be a slave, because that's the only time that slavery is legal. And I don't know if you're aware, but when you're a slave, you're not treated as a human, you're treated as property. You're seen as an asset. It's right. So like, I'm sure that of these examples, the someone pretending to be a woman so that they can try to be housed with women is the most likely to happen. And I think that it's not at all likely to happen. So, like, I think that's the only one that seems to me even slightly reasonable, because then, but then that's where you're under the presumption that we're talking about a criminal, and then I'm making moral judgments about this person that I've never met and don't know, and blah, 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 blah. It's not, people are not, no one's transitioning to pee in the women's room at the fucking Target or the mall or whatever, and no one's transitioning to be housed with women so that they can rape women in prison, because that's not where they end up housed. So, like, I don't know, man. Washington's pretty liberal. I mean, I'm sure there are places that that's not the case, and I mean, that's better in my opinion. I think that you should just be treating people the way that people want to be treated, putting them in situations where you're keeping everyone safe. Like, it shouldn't be so chill to get assaulted in prison such that you have to. Yeah, I digress. Um, and then, if we're going to talk about women's sports, in order to participate in women's sports, in most organized women's sports, as a trans woman, they test your estrogen levels and they test your testosterone levels to make sure that you are physically on par with your competition. And if you look at the numbers, and like, it's so infrequent that there are trans women in these sports anyway. And most of the time when I'm saying trans women, what I really mean is little trans children in like middle school and high school sports, like, where, and if we can get into the debate about the children transitioning and puberty blockers and all that shit at a different fucking time. But the point being, the people who are being harassed here are kids who just want to play sports with their friends. Like, there's not a professional sports situation. There was that one woman a couple years ago who was on like PragerU and a bunch of other conservatives. She did like Fox News. She did the whole goddamn circuit, whining, boo-hooing about how she didn't place because there was a trans girl in the competition. Except that if you looked at her numbers, she wasn't gonna fucking place anyway. She just sucks. Like, if you took the trans girl out of the competition, she still wasn't in the top three or whatever. Like, that shit got called. She was just someone who happened to have been involved in a situation where there was a trans girl in sports, and so they used her as the goddamn poster child. And it was a fucking lie. She wouldn't have placed anyway. That the trans girl being in the competition had zero effect. Zero. Like, unless she's suggesting the bitch tripped her, that wasn't the issue. You know, it's like they made a whole movie. Oh my god, the movie Lady Ballers. It's been heavily dissected by a bunch of different creators because it is just the worst. Like, they had to invent a problem because what they're suggesting could happen is not an option. Because if you tried to take a male basketball team and dress them all in drag and throw them on the field and go, they're all ladies now, they'd be like, awesome, so we're gonna need your hormone level test. Like, the fucking Olympics didn't let a cis woman compete because her goddamn testosterone levels were too high a couple of years ago. I believe it was the Olympics. It was some sort of international running shit, right? It was a cisgender woman, a woman born a woman, and because they routinely run these tests, because, you know, like, testosterone is one of the thing, it's a steroid, like, that is a performance enhancing drug, they, you know, so, like, they're testing people for testosterone regardless, right? Her naturally occurring testosterone levels were too high. So how do you think that people are just going to be like, I'm a lady now, and roll? Like, it doesn't, that's not how this works. It's fear-mongering. It is fear-mongering, and it is othering, and it's the thing that, you know, it's J.K. Rowling's fucking bread and butter. That all trans women are big scary men who just want to insert themselves into women's spaces, and trans men are just confused lesbians. I'm not a lesbian, right? So, like, already, right? Like, even if you think that I am a woman, like, hi, super gay. I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, I like dudes. I like dudes a lot. Like, that's not, and you know, gender and sexuality are not the same, and they are not always related. And I digress. If, you know, as the commenter that left this, like, if you're actually concerned about, like, I don't know, not being a hypocrite, I guess, like, you know, definitely there are times when you have to acknowledge hypocrisy in yourself, but bro, I think this is a time that you've acknowledged it, and now, like, you've seen, and now maybe if we could just move on. I mean, we can continue this if you. There are definitely resources. Shit, there's a channel. Some More News just did a thing on that Lady Ballers movie like a week or two ago. I think literally it was last week. Um, it's a channel that's like daily show style news. Cody Johnston is the host. He's super funny. I'm a fan. But it is what he did, or what they did, was break down the movie Lady Ballers, because the dude, I think it was Jeremy Boring, had one of the dudes who made the movie, asked people to give it an honest, critical breakdown outside of the political context. And they broke it down beat by beat about how it's comedically bullshit, and they had to make up their own straw man in order to have this boogeyman to fight, because this isn't real. It's literally just an effort by the right wing to add another wedge issue, right? Because it's like, okay, we pushed and pushed and pushed and got to a point where the gays can get married. Well, now the trans people are next, right? And so then if we start taking away the rights of trans people, who's next? The gays. And who's next? You know, it's the fucking Holocaust poem. The first they came for the communists and blah, 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 blah. Like, there's not going to be anyone around when they come for you. Ooh. So maybe let's not come for people, you know? Maybe let's not judge entire classes of people who want nothing more than to be able to piss in a public bathroom. Like, legitimately, as someone going the other direction who is, you know, living in a society where trans people are despised as much as they are, every time I go into a public bathroom, I have a little worry. I have a little, is this going to be the time? Is this going to be the time that I get the shit beat out of me? Is this going to be the time that someone rapes me because they think that one good dick is going to be the thing that makes me not be trans anymore? You know, is this going to be the time that I get murdered? Some combination of the three in various orders like, that's what I have to worry about. And I promise you, as someone who stood outside of the ladies' room, or actually in the beginning, it was before I came out, like, I would just go with her. Like, most of the time wouldn't go to the bathroom by herself. Like, and, you know, she got harassed trying to fucking piss in a Walmart once by a dude outside of the bathroom. Who the fuck, like, literally. God, and I think she might have even had the fucking baby with her. Like, it's so ridiculous, man. People just want to pee. People want to play sports with their friends. And people in prison just want to get treated like humans. These are not issues that are the faults of trans people, even if all of this shit is real. If men are pretending to be women, why is that the problem of actual trans women? Because these assaults are not, like, these things are not happening. They're not happening. They're just not. So, like, maybe think about it for a minute. Because, you know, your position, like, if it's a matter of, you know, medical stuff, well, I haven't done any of that shit. So, like, I guess, you know, does that change your position on me? You know, how far does this go? Why doesn't this extend in both directions? And I think part of it is probably that the idea of giving up your manhood is one that is real fucking weird to you, and you can't reconcile it. You can get why someone would want to be a man, but not why someone would want to not be a man. And so you can get why I am sitting here, hello, hi, but you don't understand why someone who started out would not want to be a man anymore. Well, it's because they weren't a man to begin with, most likely. Like, that's usually the thing, man. Just people figuring out who they actually are. I don't know. I hope you watched this. I hope someone watches it at least. But, you know, again, I may not address every single comment in the world, but this, you know, especially after I bitched about Caitlyn Jenner in the last video, I felt that I really needed to clarify that, like, because I think that Caitlyn Jenner is an edge case when I say that she tries to hold on to some white male privilege. I don't think, like, and I think that that is my biggest problem with her, is the fact that she is so goddamn concerned with herself and what she can get and what's for her, like, just as a human. And it's really bothersome because, like, what she does as an extremely public figure affects us. So, like, I don't know, man. Food for thought. I love you. Be safe. Make good choices.